Welcome to another edition of How to Be Happier for Entrepreneurs. It's going to be a cool one today. We're going to talk about psychedelics and trauma and healing and happiness and all kinds of good things with our guest, Gevork. Gevork, welcome to the show. How are you, my friend?
Thank you for inviting me, Brad. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, I know we spoke, I guess, a week or two ago and learned some fascinating things about you and your story. And I think the listeners are going to get a lot out of this. So let's jump right in as we always do. Can you share with us the key experiences that led to this personal trauma that you dealt with as a child or as a younger adult, and how those experiences impacted your life both physically and emotionally?
Sure, but before we get into that, I just want to say that trauma is a very powerful motivator in human society. And even though the word trauma is has a negative association, I don't think it's that black or white, and I don't think there is a person that has lived a life with no traumatic experience at all. Um, and But of course, not all traumas are the same. I think nobody can avoid it completely in their lives, and whether it's a trauma from your childhood or adult life. Um, and I think the more important question is how you deal with it and where it leads you. Like there's a very good quote from a Rocky movie that it doesn't matter how many times you fall; it only matters how many times you get up. So I guess I definitely agree with that statement. Um, but
And I echoed that sentiment too. I have yet to meet someone who didn't have some unmet childhood need. Right. That's how kind of how Gabor Mate, Dr. Gabor, talks about trauma. Is like it all starts with an unmet need. It can be something so small, it can be something so big, and trauma or childhood programming, as I like to call it, because I know some people hear the word trauma and they're like, "Well, I didn't have any trauma," and they check out. But like you said, very, very few people haven't gone through some traumatic experiences.
I haven't met anyone so far. So and it's not, I just don't want to like demonize the word, because there's such a huge potential in the word trauma as something bad, and a lot of people use it as basically as putting them as victim all the time. And it's of course it is, a trauma can be a devastating thing that happens to anyone, but um the more importantly, as I said, is how you get over it and what you take out of it. And basically for me, there's after my journey that I will of course explain and get into details. I just found that there's eventually two ways that you can live. Just you can choose to be a victim, or you can choose to be grateful. And both are the ways to live. And a person is a builder of his own destiny, and he has power to choose how he wants to live, because there's not a lot of other ways to live. You mean either you're in one position or you're in another position. So
Love
yeah.
it. So tell us about
And
your story.
yeah, I mean, my story, I guess it will be pretty standard or pretty unique for somebody, but I'll just start from a brief beginning. I was born in Russia, St. Petersburg, in 1993. My father is from San Francisco, California, and my mother is from Russia. So I had a pretty unique growing experience, because my childhood and my experience was very different from my classmates or friends or neighbors. Especially living in the time like right after Soviet Union fell apart. I mean, the country was basically a mess back then. I had and my parents are both professional musicians, and pretty famous. My mother is very famous in Russia, and my father is pretty famous internationally. So I've been brought up in a very unique environment, traveling, seeing different venues, countries, famous people, rich people, and that gave me definitely that expanded my view on life in such a vast way that this experience wasn't really comparable with anything that I could find in my surroundings when I went to school or university. Um, and living with such unique families, such as both parents being artists, and in order to be artists, you need to be very self-centered, because you need to perform. You need to be, you need to use your ego very, very, powerfully, in order to attract attention, in order to enjoy being on stage, traveling, and everything. But from a child perspective, it's a very weird situation to be in, because even though my parents are very loving, and I know they love me very much, and I love them too. Basically, a child doesn't care about how famous his parents are, or how rich they are, or whatever it is. I think the most important part about, for a child, is that their parents just give them love and attention. I definitely
Right.
got love. Don't get me wrong. I got a lot of love. Especially, I'm the only child, so I just got everything they could possibly give. So, but I didn't get much attention, and that was definitely a part of the problem, because, as I said, you have to be very self-centered in order to be an artist, especially famous artist, a soloist, and etc. But that definitely created a lot of tension, and it definitely a good platform for my trauma experience, unfortunately. um, because I always, when you have such a um, uh, you know high level of achievements in life as your example from your parents, I mean, you really have a extremely unrealistic expectations of yourself. You expect it for you that you should jump
Mhm.
right to the same level and just start from that. But this is not the reality of things. You need to work, you need to learn, and you need to struggle, and everything. But since I didn't see that, and I was born already when they were pretty famous and pretty well known, I always I took it as granted. So I just, that's always like that. You just being born with that, and either you have that or you don't have that. And that definitely created a lot of unrealistic expectations from myself, to myself. Um,
So, Gevork,
and
in addition to unrealistic expectations, I'm just assuming this, and you can tell me I may be wrong, but with two parents who are well-known musicians, were they gone a lot? Were
Oh
you
yeah, oh
did
yeah,
you not were you like cared for by a nanny or a family member or something?
oh yeah, definitely. I mean, they've been
Mm.
traveling a lot, and my father has been always traveling. I have a joke that he lives in an airplane. There's no, so I mean, the more time he sits in one place, it's the airplane. Anything else, he's just constantly on the move. New venues, new people, new meetings, new concerts, new projects. I
So,
mean,
so,
he has
so
a absolutely amazing life.
So high expectations because you're born to
Hmm.
two kind of famous people, lack of attention, and always being gone. And we could probably go on. There's probably more stuff, but how did those things that and those are unmet childhood needs, as we were speaking before. Dr. Gabor says, uh, your every issue in your life comes down to unmet childhood needs, right? How did those affect you physically and emotionally as an adult?
I would say that it led to a lot of contempt, anger, and hate toward myself, because I didn't know how to attract their attention. I mean, like, what should I become in order for my parents, kind of, take me as their career, or to admit that I'm as important as their career, because I even though I understand that there wasn't their intention in any kind, or it wasn't done on purpose. And because I guess right now, for the last 30 years, at least I'm 30 years, so 30 years ago we didn't have that much of a explanation on trauma, and we didn't even use that word that much back then.
Yeah.
Everyone just been brought up, and every family is different, and you know uh, life is not a fairy tale. As they said, some bad stuff happens, some good stuff happens. You don't choose your parents, and just the way it is. But now, with all the studying and everything, I mean, we realize that so much is being done when you're a kid. I mean, and while your brain develops and everything. So, in like a retrospective, of course, now I can definitely tell that this led to a lot of emotions that I couldn't get let out. And if you can't let out your emotions, and you can't express your anger, or your sadness, or whatever, it all backfires on you. And eventually it just builds up, builds up, builds up, and then it's just a matter of question how much your body will last until it breaks down. Because, as you remembered, Gabor Mate, I'm a huge fan of him, by the way. He said, he even wrote a book about it, then, when the body says no. And that's exactly what happened to me. I was just living my life, and trying to figure out everything. And eventually, at one point, just my body said no. And at the age of 20, I developed an autoimmune disease, which has absolutely flipped my life all over. And it set me on a absolutely amazing but very difficult journey. I can't recommend that to anyone, but speaking, in a retrospective, I'm definitely grateful for that experience, even though I wasn't for a very long time, of course. And I was in a position of a victim, absolutely. And even when I was, even when I got sick, I didn't, even though I wanted to get fixed and healed. I found so many benefits in being ill. I was shocked, because now I had excuse to say whatever I want, to not touch me anymore, or leave me alone, or I don't want to do
Well,
that, or
how about just the opposite? Did it not get you attention?
oh yeah, absolutely. That's
Did it
exactly
get
what it gave me. That's
and
exactly what it gave me.
did it get you attention from your parents?
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%.
Incredible.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely. That's
so
exactly what I was desiring. Just I
incredible.
did probably I didn't find any other way of getting it. And basically, like, there's a Russian saying. I actually don't know how to translate it, but the rough translation is that, basically, in order to piss my parents, I will sit um, on a ground, like in a pi- in a water, in a bunch of water, dirty, and just crying, and they should see me, and they should feel bad about me, like, but that's a very rough translation. But that's exactly what happened to me. It's just, I've been wanting them to pay attention on me so much that eventually I've decided, okay, I'll I'll go on a suicide mission to get attention, basically. And my body, I guess, followed that directive.
Incredible, absolutely amazing. So the last podcast, Dr. Mark Mincola was on, and he has a book and a movie called The Way of Miracles. And he says that, because you said you hated yourself, he says the opposite of self-love is self-contempt. Self-contempt leads to dis-ease in the body, lack of ease, and dis-ease leads to disease. You are he wrote the book about you, right? Do you believe do you believe that your lack of attention and your parents being gone, and being born to fame and having these high expectations led to that autoimmune issue?
Well, I mean, it's not that I want to blame my parents for my disease, but definitely, I mean, of course, all of these things contributed. I mean, I was living a bad, and not healthy lifestyle. I wasn't eating properly. I wasn't sleeping properly. But I guess that's a case with all teenagers. We explore, we test our boundaries, and we do mistakes and dumb stuff. But yeah, I mean, of course, the way I was brought up and grown, I mean, definitely that was a big contribution to where I ended up, and pretty early. A lot of people develop these conditions much later in life, and I got it at the age of 20.
Yeah, so if I'd have been listening to this podcast 5 years ago, I've been like, that guy, both of those guys on that podcast are crazy. Like, how could this guy's upbringing cause an autoimmune disease? And now I know through my research and my studies, it is possible, because there's 150 autoimmune diseases, and both Gabor and Mark Mincola believe that autoimmune issues are caused by inflammation and caused by unprocessed stress and trauma. And unfortunately, Western medicine, how many times have you been to a Western doctor where they asked you what's your stress level? And in the 10 years that you were trying to find answers, did any of the doctors ever say, well, tell us about your stress, tell us about your unresolved childhood trauma?
Well, it's a very difficult thing to realize how much stress you have in life. I mean, the only way to actually realize how stressed you are is to become unstressed very fast. At least for a brief period of time. So, like when you can actually breathe, with your full lungs, and realize that you've been actually breathing just 10% of it
Wow.
all the time, and that's why this question is not, helping in for a lot of people, because they don't even know like what's not being stressed like.
Mm,
They've been born, they've been brought up and raised and everything, and they're like, and the doctors ask them like, how stressed are you? And he's like, well, I mean, not more than usual, but like, what's usual and what's normal and what's high and
interesting.
what's low? It's a very, difficult question to answer. And this I the first time I realized that I'm actually under a huge amount of stress, it wasn't even when I got sick. I didn't I thought I was okay, but then just one time, I took an antibiotic because of the other thing, and my digestive system just shut down and started bleeding and
Wow.
ulcers. I mean, it was a surprise. It wasn't like a long, slowly, ongoing thing. It was very rapid and out of basically nowhere. And um and uh, the first time I realized how stressed I am and um, how uptight I am was when I tried marijuana. I've traveled to the United States probably at the age of 23 or 22, probably like that. I've been very sick for 2 years, and I was in the hospitals. I was on steroids, on different medications, and I mean, nothing really helped. And I just was just, barely surviving, constantly losing blood and become anemic and everything.
Wow.
And then, I just got here, and somebody just, proposed to just smoke a joint, and I said like, why not? Why not? And I did.
Hell.
And I was so shocked by like how relaxed I got and how my symptoms went away. I mean,
Wow.
I after I've tried weed and smoked it, a couple of times a week, in 2 weeks I was in a complete remission.
Wow.
When no other medication at that point, that was 10 years ago, did really help me. Of
And why
course,
do
I
you think
didn't.
that? Why do you think that was?
Both. It worked as, it stopped. First of all, it's a great anti-inflammatory thing, and it calms down your stomach. So when you have Crohn's disease, such as I do, it's you have constantly cramps in your stomach, spasms and everything, and this just, switched it off. It got me relaxed on my, physically, so my body got relaxed, and it actually relaxed my mind. So I went to sleep, I slept
Mm.
properly. I just stopped for a moment. First time in my life, I just stopped and had a time to think and actually realize how uptight I am, and what is being relaxed means. Actually, the first time, probably. So that was a huge revelation for me, and I was so surprised, and I couldn't even believe that, because I tried so many medications, and now just a couple of joints, got me into remission. And it feels like, even me telling it now sounds ridiculous. But I started to read, and I saw that cannabis is being used in the United started to being used back then in the United States for different autoimmune conditions and Crohn's disease, especially. And that was very surprising for me, because I didn't quite understand anything about it, and I just started learning and reading doctors' reviews and how cannabis works, and eventually that's what got me into the psychedelic space. So
Which is
that
so
that
tell
was.
so t so tell us about that. Obviously, you had a big breakthrough with a non-traditional drug, and you're like, "Whoa, if this works, let me look into other things." So you tell us about the next step you took and how that's, transpired over the last however many years.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've started to learn more about cannabis. I got so fascinated by it that I've decided to join the marijuana cannabis industry in 2018, when it got legalized in California for recreational use. So I went and started to work at different companies and etc. And then as I was digging more and more into that subject, I learned about other psychedelics, and I've learned about psilocybin mushrooms, ayahuasca, and many other psychedelics that that had a lot of potential benefits that I was looking for, and the whole story behind it, the traditions, the traditional use, and that kind of that amazing new wave of research, and as they call it now, psychedelic renaissance, started to be back at its peak after a 40-year like winter, when nobody was actually studying it after Nixon made it illegal and basically banned everything. So, and no reputable scientist would actually study it, because he was just risking his career and years of hard work and studying and money put into it. I've decided to give it a try, and I've did a ceremony with psilocybin mushrooms, and it was so powerful and so profound that it made me realize so much about myself. Not just starting from my childhood. Just reflecting my family, everything. So it gave me such a big picture, and such a excellent explanation of what's actually happening to me and why is it happening to me, that it got me so depressed at the first time. I was devastated, because I saw it all. I saw it all, and it wasn't good. It wasn't beautiful. It was pretty ugly, and I've seen how much work I need to put in to actually fix it. I mean, if we're talking about fixing it at the core level, there's so much work that has to be done. I got very, I mean, I got hope, but I got depressed a lot after the first time. Actually, it wasn't bad, but I would say it was exactly what I needed to feel. As they say, psychedelic don't give you what you want; they give you what you need. So, and that's actually proven to be exactly what I needed, because mm, I was trying to find an easy way out, and there was no easy way out from the place I was. I mean, the only easy way out is just to stay sick and die young. That was the easiest way to deal with my problem, and to just stuck my head in the sand and say, okay, that's me. Because I got so melted. My personality melted with my disease so badly that I've at some point I've started to even be afraid that if I got cured, I would lose myself in
Oh my
some sort.
gosh. Wow.
Because yeah, absolutely.
So so
Because yeah.
so Gevork, I know integration. We talked about this offline. Like integration is a big part of psychedelics. So you can just go take the psychedelics. Talk to us about the integration and what you did in terms of integration, and what you do now with integration.
Absolutely. Integration is a very important part of a psychedelic experience, because the as you can say, even I like the word medicine, plant medicine. I try not to use it that often anymore, because psychedelics can be many things. It can be medicine, but it can be not as well, because if I if I just want to have a psychedelic experience with my friend on a weekend and not drink alcohol or whatever, I can do that, but it's not in any kind of healing. It's just a it's just a good way of spend time, in my perspective. But it definitely can be a medicine. It definitely worked like that for me, and integration plays a crucial role in psychedelics, because the healing actually comes from integration. Like, the actual experience is just showing you the way, but
Mm.
integration is walking that way. And that's very important part, because a lot of people, they get this psychedelic experience and they realize everything, but as soon as the psychedelic experience is gone, they kind of got back on the old track and just continue do what they do, because just the routine sucks them in, and that's it. But if you actually integrate your experience with therapist, with coach, with guru, with books, with some strategy you have, it will have a 10x benefit, or maybe even 100x benefit,
S-
compared to no integration at all.
So integration, basically taking what you learned when you got quote slapped in the face or whatever you used, and you had that depressed state because you're like, wow, it was pretty ugly. It's actually then taking that and processing and working through it so that you can get that reconnection with yourself. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. 100%.
Gevork, what do you do now? I know this is kind of your life, right? What do you do to help people through some of the similar things that you dealt with?
Um, Sorry, it was breaking up. Can you repeat that, please?
Sure. Well, what you now you've dedicated your life to this, I understand. So, what do you do to help people heal now?
Oh, absolutely. And as we were talking about trauma and its impact on people's life, my trauma definitely had an impact on me finding my purpose in my life. And for that, I'm incredibly grateful for whatever happened to me. I can't recommend it to anyone because it's tough, and it wasn't nice in any case. But it gave me such a powerful motivation, and so much knowledge about different tools and methods how one can improve his own life. Because I've come to a realization that so many people are moving and going through their life, working, making careers, building companies, earning billions, having families, and whatever else they do. But and they can do it with bad health. They can do it. I mean, but just imagine how much better will you perform if you're in your prime condition. And that just got me a very huge motivation to actually help other people, with my experience and the tools that have helped me, because I see such a terrible situation with all the mental health crisis and opioid crisis in United States. I live in San Francisco. You can just walk on the street and see how I mean how people can end up if they lose their sanity, or they got just some mental diseases. Because you can have everything. You can have money, power, whatever. But if you're not healthy, especially in your mind, if your mind is not healthy, you can lose everything with such an ease that it's crucially important to have any tools at your disposal, that you can use to make your life better, and easier, and just more beautiful. um,
So someone's listening right now, and they're really struggling, and they've always wanted to do psychedelics, but they had plant based healing, whatever you want to call it, and they just have never had a resource. If they reach out to you, What do you actually do? Do you guide them through the entire process? Are you like a consultant and you pair them up with people? How does it work?
Definitely. I mean, I do all of these things. Uh, I consult people. I explain how it works from mostly from non-spiritual approach, because I like more scientific approach than spiritual. And I explain the biochemistry of that, how it works, why does it have these effects, what to expect, who is actually who's a good candidate to actually for these things, because as anything, not everything is for everybody. I think it's very important for people to have easy to understand knowledge of how these things works, because plant medicine has been with us for centuries, for thousands of years, back into history, even when we didn't even know what molecules are, like what receptors in the brain it attaches to, and etc. But there's so many evidence from the history that it's been used in many many different countries and many different cultures, dating back like as far as 5000 BC. And it can be definitely, I mean, if I can at least spread that knowledge and make more people aware about that tool, it might help them stay on track of a healthy life, because there's so much demand for mental health right now, and definitely the medical system that we have here or anywhere in the world is not capable of managing and helping them as fast and rapidly. And everyone has a different approach, and there is no standard in treating mental diseases. You can go to one country, it's one approach. You can go to another country, it's a different approach. So but
And and it,
there's
and it hasn't gotten better either over like the last 50 years. It's like the one profession that hasn't advanced. The results are still the results that they were getting, 40, 50 years ago. So
of
so you
course.
so you'll shepherd someone through the entire, like, depending on what they want, you can take them all the way from A to Z in this process.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. What's the best way if someone's interested in contacting you? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
You can you can email. That's probably going to be the best way to reach me.
And what is your email?
It's Gorbelian at gmail.com. So you can just find me there, and I'll always answer. I live in San Francisco, California, Bay Area. So if anyone local would be interested to get in touch, I'm happy. Or if I can be helpful on a distance, I'm happy to consult anyone in the United States or in the world who's watching this podcast.
So, Gevork, as we close, what did I not ask you, or what do you think is the most important thing for folks to know about psychedelics and healing and happiness?
I think we didn't catch the like a lifestyle habits, which is a very important topic. Because diet plays a crucial role, is how you sleep, and because psychedelics is a great tool of understanding where to go, but then you need also tools on while you're going, and how to be properly managing your day, and meditation practices, healthy sleep, healthy diet. And what is healthy diet? Because there's no universal healthy diet for anyone, so it's also important, it has to be very tailored to each one needs. And yeah, I mean, because all of these things adds up, and you I mean, and even if it's like 1%, 5%, if you get all of them right, or at least try to, you'll see an improvement instantly, much much faster than from going to endless amount of doctors or whatever. Even though I respect doctors, don't get me wrong, they're doing an important job, and they're absolute heroes. but there's so much that they can't control, and they don't want to spend their time explaining to people, because people will not kind of follow the guidelines. And if you go to the doctor and you ask him for help and he said, okay, just fix your diet and get a good sleep, and people don't do that, then they just say it's a bad doctor. He didn't help me, he didn't give me any helpful advice, but actually he did, but he can't control it. So it's much easier to prescribe you a pill, or get you on some sort of treatment or medication or whatever, because that's something they can do to actually make you say, okay, that's kind of working. But if you know, I mean, the more educated yourself about your own body practices and just the mindfulness, the better it is going to be for anyone, and it's going to be much easier for doctors to help you.
Right. Gevork, thank you for your time. That was excellent. I'm happy that you're in a much better place, and now that you're giving back the gift, just like you, I found my passion and my true purpose through healing myself. So, yeah, you're doing amazing work. And if anyone wants to reach out, you want to say your email one more time, please?
Sure, absolutely. It's Gorbelian @gmail.com. So it's the first letter of my first name and my last name, basically. So.
And guys, as we close, I'm trying to help 1 million people find freedom and happiness through reversing these childhood beliefs. So I need your help. So if you like this show, if you like this content, please do me a favor. Just take 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes. Go rate the show. Go review it. Go share it. Whatever you can do to help me spread this message, to help make this world a better place. And that concludes another episode of How to Be Happier for Entrepreneurs. And remember, love heals all.